Avarice. I always get it wrong. Avarice. Now, then, after Avarice, which was the city that they were pushed off, I think it was still in the nome of Hemmit, they were later gone to a place called Syria. They were later pushed on to Syria, where in Syria they built the country of Judea. And then they set up a city in Judea and called it Jerusalem. Everybody with me? Judea was named for the outcast Jews of Egypt, in the city of Avarice was called Typhus. The city of Avarice was also called Typhus. Now, the Jewish Hebrew language was the original language that was borrowed from Kemet. Now, they say the Hebrews was composed of hieroglyphics and symbols and myths of the Egyptians and their gods. The imageries and allegories of divinities found in the Hebrew writings are the Egyptians appearance of the Typhon coast. The Jewish outcast materials originally mythological in Egypt, but converted into history of the Jews. Now, we understand that he said the Jews were a tribe of Egyptians revolted against the established religion, which was talking about the Amen religion, and we talking about the other Set Typhon cult, or the Sut Typhon cult, which is an earlier cult coming up from Ethiopia. Now, Jehovah can be traced back to the Great Mother. Now, Jehovah, as we thought was a masculine deity, Jehovah, the original Jehovah, is none other than the Great Mother's active Newt Tyre. Okay? Now, let's go on. The followers of Ramesses II, who supposed to have been a pharaoh of the Egyptian or the Kemetic dynasty. Now, tell the brother if I have to turn that little music down a little bit, because I know it's going to distract some of the people and all. Just turn it down just a little bit, no. The actual Ramesses dynasty, which supposed to have been the people who kicked the actual Jews out. If we know we got a big old body of Ramesses left over, and we also got a temple of Abisymbel in Nubia left over, and we also have the Ramesses and all this stuff that was built for a particular man that was supposed to have drowned in the Exodus. And we know that that's just a mythological thing, because wasn't the Exodus that they're talking about never occurred in Kemet. Now, Ramesses was a Typhon worshiper himself. Now, we're not talking about the other Set Typhon. We're talking about the first primordial Typhon, the blue-black god Sut. His father was named Seti I, which Seti I was a form of that Sut. The first primordial god, Sut Typhon, who is his astronomical counterpart, is Sirius. Ramesses was a Sut Typhon worshiper himself. Now, Sut was a god of the Negroes and the Ethiopians that was called Aten. Also, a Sut-Neshi, the son of the horizon in the eschatology worshipped by the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians worship a blue-black god called Sut-Nesi. Later on became Aten, or Medu-Ra-Aten. Now, this is going to later on pop back up in Kemet later on with Akhenaten. Now, you got to keep these things, because we're trying to fuse these two together to let you know that it's all the same. But later on, Akhenaten rises up. Now, when Akhenaten rises up, is a time when there's a little bit of chaos going on in ancient Kemet, where the people started partying all night. Get Donald Redwood's book, Akhenaten, the Heretic King, where they go into the actual, where the people started partying all night. When Akhenaten rises up, he said he was going to put an end to that socially. So what he did was, his mother was Queen T, who was an Ethiopian. Now what happened was, she worshipped the god Aten that was in Ethiopia. Later on, Aten is a symbol also of the Sphinx, which is the crown and conquering lion of Judah. See how these things tie in? Which is the actual primordial segment, is the first crown and conquering lion of Judah. But also the Sphinx represents Aten on the horizon, on both horizons. His mother worshipped Aten in Ethiopia. So when he got in, he set up Aten. The priest took him out, not because of the particular god, because the god was old in Kemet. It goes all the way back to the primordial god Sut. on which the Hyksos worshipped came out of Ethiopia and on down the Nile Valley on into the primordial god. Sut, Sut-Nesi, Sut-Nubit, Aton is the name of that particular god also. Later on, the Seth in the Bible, where the Bible gives up where it comes from, where they put the second son of, what the third son of Adam is called Seth, is the same Sut. They just changed things around now. One of the pre-Christians were called the Sethians, if you understand the Gnostic, because a good book to get is the Jean Duress book called The Secret Book of Egyptian Gnostics. That particular book goes into where if you take the Sut typhon of Egypt, the Seth of the Bible, and put them, and they are all the same. Even Jesus was a Sut worshiper. But we're talking about the primordial set other than the other set. The other set was never worshipped. It's just an explanation of the white man up against the God of the perfect black Osiris. Everybody got that clear? Now, he rose up. He got taken out because of his political role other than the religious role. Even though he tried to establish what he called a monotheistic religion, but he didn't understand that the actual Amen religion was a monotheistic religion from the get-go. You see, Amen is also a form of the saints also, so we're talking about some of the same religious ideologies. It's about like a fight in the Christian church now. You got different sects that's talking about the same religion. Now, he got taken out. Moses rises up, and you can get the book Moses and Monotheism by Sigmund Freud. You remember that one? Moses rises up. I don't know what they say in the estimate, and also get Charles Finch's book, Echoes of the Old Dark Land. Moses rises up, and he is a student of Akhenaten. If he wasn't a student as far as right up under him, he was a student of the teachings of Akhenaten also, okay? Now, Moses rises up. What happens is this. You have a group of other people that are later on worshiping the Sut type of religion. Moses being a student of Akhenaten, what happens is, when this particular people, these Hebrew people get thrown around or get into this big fight with the Ramesside king supposedly. And also you can get a book, if you want to get the true story of this, in an article called Against Avion it's in the works of Josephus. And one of the works, get the complete book of Josephus, where he actually talks about the Against Avion, where they talk about this second fight going on. Now you have the first relatives is the Hyksos. They get thrown out. Okay? Everybody got me? You got another people rising up right after Akhenaten. They're worshiping the same Sut type of religion. They are cousins of the original Hyksos, but all of them are Egyptians. Remember now, they couldn't sustain a religion because all the religion came from one place. But we're talking about they were Egyptians as far as the race. We're talking about a race of black people breaking off. So now, this is the time of Akhenaten. Akhenaten comes on the scene. He gets taken out. Moses rises up, and he is a high priest. Remember that when we get into this Ark of the Covenant, we understand how he actually fashioned the Ark of the Covenant. Now, he's a high priest. So now he rises up. What happens is the Hebrews at this time get kicked out again for worshiping Set and they get kicked out into the city of Avarus, where their cousins a couple of 100 years ago went to that same city. This city was left over for those such type of worshipers. So, now, what happens is, Moses was a high priest and understood that these people by prophecy would later on rule the world. Now, at a certain time, if you notice, they say that the Egyptians, you're coming out of Egypt riding an ass. The Hebrews came out of Egypt riding an ass. Real symbolic. One of the actual Hebrew gods was called El, Har, which is Heru, Sut, Israel, which means Isis, Ra, which means the sun, and El, which means the child. Adani is one of those particular gods also, and also one of the names of Adani is Awaz. Okay? Now, El also means the child. There was a book that was presented by this particular blue-black god called Awaz later on didn't realize is the white boys received the last book and held on to it for 90 years. And you just didn't know about it. It didn't come to you for the simple fact you were already a people that was going to rise up anyway. Just as the doggone cycles go, you're going to be on top whether you like it or not. They just saying individually, y'all need to get with it so you can get with this cycle. And don't go out with your beast. So they didn't need a book to come to you. You had all the other books before. So the book had to come to the white boys to give them a warning. It's actually our book. But it came to the white boys to give them a warning on what things are going on. By him being the beast, he just held the book from the rest of his people. Now this particular book, we know that the oldest book in the world is the Egyptian or the Kemetic Book of the Dead, right? The Kemetic Book of the Dead, or the Egyptian Book of Coming Forth by Day, is the oldest book in the world that we know of, because at one time we were all gods and we didn't need books, right? Okay. Now, the only book, wouldn't it be funny that the oldest book in the world would only be the only book in the last days that would rise up again? And that book I'm going to get into later on about this particular book that rose up again. It's the only book that came out twice. All the other books, this book came out twice because this was the original book. And if you look at the other books, they are carbon copies of the original. Now, if you're Islamic, if you're Hebrew, and all that, that's cool. That just means that your religion is tapped into the original, so you weren't on course. It's all one. It's all by black people. You understand? We don't need to get in an argument with first and last because it was all of ours. We were the first people. And at one time, we didn't need books at all. Remember now, we was radiating at the level of godhood at one time, and we didn't need books. It was only when the chakras closed down and we started going into a third dimensional concept. You checking that? Is that right? Brother, this is important. You know what I'm saying? Very important. This is now.
You see the light blinking?
No, I ain't gonna see no light. You know that?
This light right here.
I'm saying I'm not gonna see it. You know what I'm saying? Now, this particular book would rise up again. It is the first book, which is the original book. So the last book would be a part of the original book too. Two Kemetic books. You didn't know about one because one happened so long ago until it was out of your existence. But it came into your existence through these other books. The actual book that is the last book to come down, which was given by this particular angelic angel called Amos, was an Egyptian book. Okay? Now, in Hemmit, they say that the Hebrews, or even Jesus, came out of Hemmit riding on an ass. Now, the ass was a type of soot. The first god, his symbol was an ass, was the first god of the dog star. Similarly, the word IU, the coming one, they're talking about a Messiah, is a name for ass. These types belong to the cult of Set Typhon during the Sabine period, which preceded the introduction of the solar time reckoning kept by Moses. Set Typhon was called the ass, and it's foul, which is talking about scientific evidence, and it's talking about this particular ass, and we'll get into that in another detailed study. I don't want to go into that all day. Now, what happened was this. You had this ever-coming one, which is the Messiah. His name was I-U-Sa, I-U-S-U, so it's I-U-S-A, is one of the names, I-U-S-U, or I-U-S-I-F. And the I-U-S-I-F is a word that they put together to mean Jesus. I-U-S-I-F is a word that they put together to mean Jesus. Was the ever-coming Son, the Messiah, the true I-U, the son of the mother of the coming one of the double Heru harvest. Now, I-U was also a preacher, and this is the Egyptian Messiah. It's the form of Heru harvest. He's also a preacher. And he's coming, this particular Messiah, which you get the word Jesus is a compound or a combination of these particular words. Now we saying that Joshua ben Pandera is the historical Jesus, but now they're saying that they ain't got evidence to say that he never existed. We don't know what's going on. But we understand that there was a Christ figure 2,000 years ago that did exist. Went into the dimension system and didn't get all of the gods to it. And so that whole cult came up out of that. But remember now, we can trace Christianity back before Jesus, so obviously something is going on here. up under the Bible that can go to the Kabbalistic breakdown is also talking about the breakdown of the soul. So now we got doggone tricks going on here with the religion in the exoteric form. There's two kinds of religion. There's the exoteric, which all the masters did and are dumbfounded, which is called moral teaching. That's to teach a child how to act civilized. That's meant for the beast. It's denoting some of your nature. Then there's the exoteric, which is the explanation of your nature. You see, you are now reduced down to the point that you got moral teachers. And like I say anytime, if you're in a doggone church, and he's supposed to be teaching you what you're supposed to know, 10 years down the road, you don't supposed to see that. You're supposed to have gone on to another level. It's supposed to be just like college. Remember now, in the ancient mystery system, you learn the religion and you learn all the other stuff at the same time. If you still last 30, 40, maybe 60 years listening to children's stories, obviously you're not progressing. You understand what I'm saying? You're not progressing if you're still in the kindergarten. And basically what we have with the actual religion is we have kindergarten stuff or Sunday school, and you never really graduate out of Sunday school. You just take the Sunday school and get a little more technical. The preacher just comes up and holler a little more. You see what I'm saying? So this is the type of stuff that's going on. This is your drug right now. And if you notice now, look on the TV. Look, if you get cable, every other station got somebody preaching. Now, if that is something that people are preaching in the last days, then obviously that is a drug. Because the white man, if it was liberation, he would not put it on. And if it tapped into your real spirituality, he would not put it on. I'm like John Hemmit. I can sit up here and say that serves you no good. You say this, but I get so spiritual. You get that same spirit when you go see Michael Jackson jumping up and down. That's a part of your nature. That's a part of your nature. The black man can get spiritual off of a roach if he tap into it the right way. And if I taught you that Mickey Mouse was a god, you get spiritual off that because you are actually expressing a part of your nature, which is the nature of God and